in this webinar. I'm very honored to have a moment to speak with all of you. So let's dig right in. So what I want to do during this demonstration or this discussion is demonstrate or talk about work management systems for utility vegetation management in general, just an introduction of that idea. Then I'll talk a little bit about Davie Resource Group's GIS, IT, software, research and development, provide an overview of our software systems, and then we'll get into some demonstrations on those systems. So we have the Rover software, which is the field software, and I'll just do a simple demonstration of work planning, focusing on how we can take advantage of geographic information systems and validations, photos. We'll move into like permission slips, so for to aid in any kind of notification process your group may have. Issuing work to contractors, auditing, and then after those examples, we'll move into myRowKeeper, which is the web-based system that reports all this information. I'll go through how we can navigate around, some of the reporting that's available for it, and then talk about historical archiving. All right, so to get started, work management systems at a nuts and bolts level, they'll provide you the tools to pre-plan all vegetation management concerns along the utility right-of-way. And then be able to take that pre-planned work and quantify it, calculate estimated costs, and then assign work to your contractors to go out and execute it. As the work is being executed, capturing the results and progress of the completion of that work, and then allow for auditing to confirm that the work was properly planned and executed. That's at a nuts and bolts level. At a higher level, work management systems can aid in budgeting. They can help you identify correlations with CEATI and CEATI metrics. They help you with your compliance reporting. So for example, NERC, FERC, and state utility commissions, they may have regulations and reporting requirements that work management system can really help you conform with. Environmental concerns, so we have field planners out there identifying where trees need to be cut back or removed. Well, they can also identify environmental concerns, and in doing so, that can help you guys organize what target windows the work can be executed in. And then finally, the notification process. If there is one example would be something that's becoming more common is applying herbicide at properties. You need to have a notification in place, and you need to have a record of how that notification processes went. And work management systems will generally provide these types of tools. In real time, what work management systems can allow you to do is help you spotlight imminent threats. The users out there on a cycle planning, and they identify that there is a tree that is an imminent threat, they can report it immediately and start to take action. Homeowner refusals. I know that can be a headache for a lot of VM programs when you are having challenges getting the homeowners to approve the work that needs to be done. Well, having that refusal process able to be quickly identified and highlighted, so that way we can work on towards getting that permission. Help identify whether you're falling behind in your schedule, whether that be the planning schedule or the execution of the work that was identified. And then finally, budget reporting, and not just whether you're running over budget, but are you running under budget? Those are some of the advantages that a work management system can help you identify in real time rather than months too late. Work management systems will generally add transparency and efficiency to the vegetation management program. It'll help you measure your progress towards your goals and objectives, and it'll build a history to manage for the future. Really, what it comes down to is what a work management system will allow you to do is take that field arborist out there in the real world, identifying concerns directly, taking that information, consolidating it onto a central database, using that central database to get out there and get that work done, which then leads to a nice, successful, positive experience for our customers. So the GIS IT software research and development for the Davie Resource Group, or a division of Davie Tree Expert Company, we have 8 web and application developers that are employed directly by Davie Resource Group. So all this software that I'm going to be demonstrating is stuff that we've built ourselves. We like to say it's software built for foresters by foresters. Those 8 team members is part of a 25-member team that specializes in GIS and information technology. We look at the tools that we're building as being adding efficiency and value. So obviously Davie offers a lot of work planning services. So the software that I'm going to be demonstrating today is the same software that we use in those efforts. Developing our own tools from the ground up. Again, these are all built in-house with a strong emphasis on flexibility and generality. And then finally, we approach, whether it be software development or the implementation of our software on a particular program, under an agile project management approach, which more or less, if you're in the world of software development, means frequent touch points with all the stakeholders, including the VM programs, the work planners, the software guys, the service desk guys, everyone working together to make sure that we're meeting our goals effectively. So, as far as Davie software is concerned, we have this idea of this myRowKeeper online database. We have this field data collection system that's called Rover. It runs on Windows tablet computers, and it can communicate up and down with that online database. And then the higher level people and users can log into the myRowKeeper website, and they're able to then access all that information that's being collected in the field. So what Rover is a GIS-based data collection system running locally, built by us, allows us to directly communicate with our myRowKeeper, and then there's an example of some of the hardware requirements. It's a rather light footprint on a tablet computer these days. This is the stack that we built this technology on. So one thing I want to draw your attention to is Davie Resource Group has made an effort with this technology to really focus more on open source technologies as much as possible. And so you'll see a lack of Esri in a lot of our technologies. Now, that's a decision that we've made in order to accomplish our goals and as well as save our customers money. The advantages of it is we're working with a different playbook, for example, but also we aren't limited out of working with Esri. You can extract the information that we're collecting in our systems in an Esri compliant format. But the Rover, we got at the database level, we're using an SQLite database, and then we have a GIS application library built with a product called ThinkGeo, and then on top of that, it's Visual Basic.net and C#. Now, the myRowKeeper element, which is the web reporting system, again, all developed here. This is its stack, and you can see it's a little bit more complicated, but we have our mapping element, which is running on using open layers and Google Maps API and GeoServer. We've got our database level, which is leveraging something called PostgreSQL and PostGIS. Our server-side language is Adobe Cold Fusion, and our client-side libraries are HTML, AngularJS, and Bootstrap. All right, so that's the technical background on this, and let's move on to some actual demonstrations. So right here I've brought up the Rover application. I've already logged into Rover. It is a username password required application, so that way we can protect the potential sensitive nature of this information. And this would be the tool that the field planners would be using typically as they're gathering information. The red line represents where the utility line is. The black boxes around these lots, these are parcel boundaries. And this yellow triangle is a tree that I've marked for removal. So if I'm a work planner and I'm out in the real world planning this information, there's a couple options for how I can capture where this work is located. I can utilize GPS and just capture, stand next to a tree and capture my position, or I can just simply digitize the feature. For this example, I'm just going to go ahead and digitize since I'm indoors and it's not very exciting to have a little yellow triangle appear in my office. But I have selected a removal layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on the map where I want to place that removal point. So the removal point's been placed and the data entry form has popped up. And I have my options here where I have my what fields I'm set to collect. So the way we've done this is we want to try to reduce mouse clicks as much as possible. So my removal instructions will be either chip on right-of-way, clean up wood, leave wood, or contractor assist. Now one thing I want to pause on here and let you all realize is this is a completely flexible data structure. This particular client, this is the way that they wanted to capture how a removal point is being collected, but it doesn't have to be this way. This is just the way that this particular user has requested it. So don't feel like that this is a rigid system that can't be adapted to your localized program. Remember, when we approach software development, we're trying to do it in a very general way, a very generic package. So I'll just say that we're going to go ahead and clean up the wood. What species is it? So if there's species that I've already entered, I have those buttons up here at the top, or I can go down to the pick list and choose. And you can see as I make my choices, it's auto-choosing for me, or it's bringing me to the next field. And then you might notice that there's some red fields and green fields. Well, the green fields are just that's a good value. That's a real-time validation. It's just telling me that based on my removal instructions, these aren't legitimate work codes. I need to be choosing one of these work codes instead. Is it a hazard tree? What type of work is it? We'll say it's PM work. Who's the owner? We'll say this is a privately owned tree. Is it in a wetland? No. What's the roadside permit needs? We don't need one. What's the permission status from the homeowner? So maybe this is an example, a utility held the rights, or maybe there's full permission, or maybe it's to be determined. I haven't found out yet. Now that's the work description elements for it. If I go over here to the contact information, I want you to notice how it has this information already pre-populated for me. So we have the parcel information loaded into this data collection platform, and since I have that, any tree that I drop, I can automatically relate to an address, as well as homeowner information if I have it. So in this case, this particular parcel record doesn't have an address, but I do have a name and there's a generic phone number in here. But if I'm out in the field working with this customer, I might be able to gather that information and I can actually collect it and capture it in the field in real time. There's a track assessment that's been built into our software. In this case, track isn't necessary, but we do have an example of a validation here that I want to bring to your attention. If I head back over here to the identified in a wetland, well, if this tree is in a wetland now, what this customer wanted is for us to go through the process of doing a track assessment. So you can see how all these buttons are now showing themselves as green, which just indicates that I need to choose these options because I'm in a wetland right now. I'm just going to go back and mark that back to a no. Once it's all said and done, I can just hit the save and close button, and that will go ahead and drop a point on the map. And you can see down here at the bottom, you might have missed it, but it said transaction processing. If I'm connected to the internet in real time, it's going to upload that point immediately in real time. Now if I want to go ahead and click on another point to add, I can just go ahead and click on the map where I want to place it, and maybe this is more or less the same type of tree that I just added. I can utilize the load last to just copy the information from before. If I wanted to take a photo of the tree, we have the ability to bring up an onboard camera. And so I'll go ahead and switch over, and now you guys get a chance to see me. So I'm using the web camera, and it's being displayed on Rover. But if I go ahead, I got a little cheat here. I'm going to switch to my rear camera. And even though I'm in a cubicle, I got this picture of a tree posted right by my camera. So I'll just go ahead and take that picture. and then it's warning me that it can't geotag the image. So if we have GPS enabled, we can geotag each of these images as they're being captured. And so now I have that photo taken. I can also mark the photo up if I wanted to. I could go ahead and just draw a circle highlighting attention to a particular issue. Now I'm using my mouse, which is a little awkward, but if I was running on a tablet computer, I would actually have my pen, and I could just draw and highlight arrows. So you have that ability for that planner to communicate in a picture what their concern is with this particular tree. And so now I have that photo attached to this particular record, and again, I'll go ahead and save and close, and that information is going to go ahead and upload to our server. The last piece that I want to highlight is the electronic permission slips. So if I go ahead and identify this particular parcel and edit and bring in my related panel of features here, you can see on this parcel I have two removals, and I have the parcel itself. I can bring up this form menu, choose the type of form that I am filling out. In this case, this is a vegetation management agreement where we have some language in here about what the homeowner is agreeing to, a description of the work that needs to happen, what's the parcel information, and then going through here, there's my signature, and then I can have the homeowner put in their signature. We'll have them go ahead and fill out their name. That might make things a little bit easier. And then, again, this engagement is working with a tablet computer, so you just hand the tablet over and they just use their pen to sign whatever they need to sign. We'll just put a couple exclamation points on there. I'll accept it and click the check. It's catching that the email address is different than what was on the associated parcel, and it's just asking, do you want to save this email to the parcel so you'll have it in the future? I can open my form, and I have that electronic permission slip that's now been recorded. I have that homeowner's signature that's been added. And I'll go ahead and close the parcel. Now what is going to happen is that permission slip is just going to automatically be emailed directly to our customer automatically. They'll just be CC'd on it. It'll be coming from the behalf of the work planner, so there's going to be that engagement, and then if the homeowner has a concern or question or follow-up on it, they have a direct line of communication with the work planner who talked to them and worked out the details for that work. All right, let's go ahead and switch out of Rover for a minute, and we'll switch back into myRowKeeper. So here's myRowKeeper. I'm logged into myRowKeeper right now. I think it times out, so I might have timed out, but it looks like I'm still live. And you can see this is where this particular utility is located. All these red lines indicate the utility right-of-ways. And if I go ahead and do a search, and I kind of have an easy bake cake here, so I already have a remote ID set on my clipboard, so I can kind of get to that area that we were working in before. So there's a point, and if I just work my way down here, let's bring on a couple layers. I'll turn on our parcel layer, and I'll go ahead and turn on our removal layer. And so now we can see those points that I had collected just a moment ago. And if I click on one of those points, I can go right in there. You can see the photo that was taken with that particular tree. The information I had collected, it was collected by JAS, that's Justin Stratton, on 9/14/2017, a little bit after 2:30, or right before 2:30. And if it's where our friends have already driven, I can bring up the Google Street, our friends at Google, I can bring up the Street View and get right to that information immediately and kind of get an idea of what it looks like from a Google Street View perspective. And I can go ahead and go over here, and I'll go ahead and look at the parcel this time. And there's the electronic permission slip attached to the parcel, which I can go ahead and open. And you can see there's my signature, and with the exclamation point. It's a little hard to see it this without zooming in a little bit tighter, but it's the same form that we just wrote. So from a very granular level, that gives you an idea of how to see the information as it's being collected. And I can turn on additional work layers. So here's a linear trim that I collected earlier today. I can turn on the brush and identify where there might be some brush polygons nearby. Here's a couple of examples over here. So each of those pieces of information that we're gathering and capturing is being recorded in real time, uploaded immediately, assuming we have internet access in the field. If we don't, those uploads will just get cached and sent later when I do have internet accessibility. But the whole mechanism, all that information is being collected in the field, is available immediately on the website. Now if I bring in the summary panel here, and I'll go ahead and what I want to do is I'm going to clear my selection. I currently had a feature selected on my map, and I'll bring back up the panel. And I know, like, the way that this information is organized is by circuit. So I know that there is information on MD2256. That's the circuit that I'm actively planning. And I can bring down that accordion there, and I can expand some of this information and get these reports in real time. So in this case, here's a breakdown of the removals that are tied to that circuit by work code and how many there are, as well as their permission status. Or I could review like the linear trim history there and see that I have 2 linear trim records that are no contact, 153 feet in total feet, and then I have 1 full permission for 188. So all this information here is reported in real time on a circuit by circuit basis. It helps me quantify just how much work is there in the hopper right now on this particular feeder. Now, if I want to go and I want to issue the work to a contractor, I can go over to the Data Transfer tab, and I can add information to that contractor's queue. And so in this case, I'm just going to bring up an example user here. I have this David McFarland, perhaps he's the foreman for a crew, and in his subscription right now is circuit MD2256 with all work that's scheduled as priority maintenance, or PM. And I issued that on his behalf. So what that means is if David logs into his Rover and hits the download button, he's going to get all that information on MD2256 loaded, and then we can leverage Rover to actually do the work completion. And I have an example of what that might look like. Here's another Rover project, but the big green points represent removals that need to be done. And if I'm, as a contractor, working the line and removing these trees, I can utilize the software just to go through and mark that this has been removed. Just identifying the tree, clicking on the point, to identify it. You can see down here that its status is currently active, it needs to be done, and then there's a work complete date already in here, but I'm just going to go ahead and hit the pencil button. Now the status has changed to inactive, and the work complete is today's date. I'll close that. You can see how the symbology on those removal points is changing from a large green circle to a small gray circle. So as a contractor, all I got to do is look for the big green circles. I see the big green circles, I go out, I do the work, mark it as complete just by the simple, right through the identify process. I don't even have to go into the edit form if I don't want to. It's a very quick and common edit. I can just mark it right then and there. Now, there might be times when I might have to get into the edit form if I need to, like, have to skip the work for some reason. I want to, and I need to add some comments on why we're skipping it. So it's not a lockdown system, but if your most common example is, yep, this tree was planned, it's in the system, I'm marking it as complete, I can just do it in a couple clicks. Back to the myRowKeeper application. So I want to take just a minute to talk about archiving features and what archiving is and what it allows us to do. Because part of this process is building a history. So as you see, as I can zoom out more and more and more, you can see just how many removals have been identified with this particular utility. The yellow triangles each represent a removal. And since this particular system is on a cycle program, like I think it's if I recall right, a 4-year cycle, as every year you need to go out and you need to do a particular percentage of the system, and then eventually you're going to come back. And so when you come back, you might want to take the information that was already there and collapse it down into a reference point. And so what we've done in this particular system, if I bring up a layer, and I'll call it the archive point layer, I'll just turn that on, and you can see these orange stars that pop up. And if I go and I look at one of these orange points, I can learn the details of that particular parcel. So there's 2 types of archives. There's the parcel, the work that happened at a particular parcel, and then there's the line, the information that happened at a line. May not be related to a parcel in this project. And so in this case, I can see that I had a removal that was greater than 36 inches. The planner can see that as well. Like after we do this archive, when the planner goes out to start planning a line, when they download that line to their Rover system, these archive points will come with it. So imagine the effectiveness of that planner communication with the homeowner if it's a follow-up and they can bring up and show, I see 4 years ago we handled this work at your property and now we need to do this as well. Or if there might have been a refusal that was that the homeowner held out on and never issued and they had to do a scope modification. Well, any removals won't be archived by design. They'll stay in there as an active point, and that planner, when he or she gets out there, they'll see, I had a refusal 4 years ago, or there was a refusal here, and they can maybe engage with that homeowner to try to get that permission this time. Maybe maybe it'll be possible if they took a photo of the removal from 4 years ago, they can show, well, this is what it looked like 4 years ago. Now look at how much more that crown has declined. It's really about getting that information, that historical information, and building the program for the future. Now, the other piece of this element that good work management systems should allow you to do is the auditing. And the idea of the auditing is, not only do you have planners go out and identifying work that needs to be done, but then you have the contractors go out and actually doing the work. And effective programs will typically audit that entire process. They'll send out senior foresters to go out, review the work that was done, make sure everything was done in spec and code, as well as double check the planner, make sure that he or she didn't miss pieces of information or misplan the work that needed to be accounted for. And so this is a audit result summary report that we've put together where it demonstrates by each feature class and what feeder and what work type and how much work was planned and what passed. So in this case, let's just dig down to MD2256. And so I can see on that was the line that we've been playing with today. And I can see that there is 45 planned features and 45 of them passed plan, and there was 45 that passed work as well. But down here in the linear trim, I can see that we planned 3. We only passed 1 for plan. 2 of them were actually a plan fail. So this is great. This is a moment where we can we have this information, we can review this information with this particular planner, coach them, work them through making sure that the information is being collected correctly. Imagine if it was a failure for work, then you could also have a similar discussion with the contractor. So being able to audit the information and gather that information up very quickly is extremely important. Within the myRowKeeper system, we have a report builder, so you can just kind of build whatever report you are interested in building. So, I can start imminent threat report. Boy, my spelling is absolutely awful, so I'll take advantage of technology and have it auto-correct that for me, and I'll go ahead and create my report. And I can go in, I can say, okay, well, I'm running this report on removals, and I want it to be a listing report, and the information I want to have included on that maybe is the address, the species, the size, class, whatever. There's a mechanism in the software to build your own report, and then once that report is built, it becomes accessible for you immediately. So I'm going to go ahead and click on an example of that, the imminent threat size class report that I created before. And here's just a summary breakdown of all the imminent threats and their size classes and how many there are. I can, if I want to export this out as a CSV file, there's an option to do that right here. If I want to export it as a PDF, I have that option as well. But this is all real-time reporting. As new imminent threats are being identified, each day, if I go and run this report, I'm going to see those. We can create a mechanism to quickly map that data. So for example, we have a map for refusals. I could click that filter and it would just automatically map for me all the refusal work that is on the system right now. All right, so wrapping up here, again, I want to really thank you guys for giving me an opportunity here to demonstrate some of the ways that the Resource Group has attempted to solve some of the challenges that I'm sure are causing each of you heartache